What's up, everyone, and welcome to Lowered Expectations. Thanks for lowering your expectations and hanging out with me here. I do appreciate it. Before we get into this video, a huge thanks to John for being my latest Patreon supporter. Thank you, John. I do appreciate it very much. If you guys are interested in supporting me on Patreon, there is a link in the description below. Feel free to go check that out. This is a little bit of an oddball video and a little bit of an oddball machine. I'm working on a brush cutter attachment for a BCS. I will insert a picture here of what the unit looks like assembled. Basically, it is kind of like a tiller. It is a self-propelled machine that you walk behind. The front of it has a PTO that you attach different attachments, and this is a picture of the attachment that I'm actually working on today. The next thing that I have to say about this video is that I am aware that the audio is pretty horrible in some places. I did my best to correct the audio and change the levels, but I was doing some testing on the Weaver ultrasonic cleaner. I needed to get that video done, and so this got done at the same time that was getting done. So if you can't watch this video because of the audio, I totally understand. Even though I did my best to correct it, it didn't turn out great. But the reason why I decided to publish this video is because I did the same thing that I always do when I get something new or unfamiliar, and that is go on the internet and do a bunch of research. And I was able to find some promotional videos. I was able to find a bunch of videos of people using or testing them, but I didn't find a single video of anyone doing a repair. Even though this is not an in-depth repair, I am simply replacing a nut that's stripped out. Have to weld a new nut on. Yeah, hopefully this helps somebody out, and if not, hopefully it is entertaining. This is the unit in question here. It is a PTO-driven lawnmower thing. It's meant for cutting ditches and bushwhacking, basically. It has a 90-degree transfer or drive case here, gearbox, and the brush comes in through the front, just off the camera here. It goes in through right here, and yeah, these cutty bits do the cutting. This thing rotates around, and these skids drag along the ground, and the idea is that it cuts stuff up. It is a Del Morino model 92191226, 61 kilograms, 540 RPM. So the problem is that this bolt here, the nut that it threads into, is stripped, and that nut is welded onto this housing here. So what I'm going to try to do is remove this piece so that I can get a closer look. Removing this piece means removing, I believe, a drive coupler in here, and it might be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but you got to do what you got to do. I'm going to take this bolt out, and then we've got a matching one on the other side here. This whole head is allowed to pivot a little bit, only a few degrees, surprisingly. I would expect that to rotate a whole lot more. Articulate, I guess, is the word they would use, just so that it would line up with the ground better, but I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've got these bolts loosened off. I maybe shouldn't have done that right away because I can lift this up and then tighten those bolts back up. I'll try to get you guys a shot of this, what's going on in here, but I'm gonna have to remove some bits in here in order to actually pull this piece off. There is a universal joint, and there is a set screw right in the bottom of that universal joint. Hopefully when I loosen that up, this shaft will pull out. I'll be able to remove the two bolts that I had just tightened up, and the whole thing will slide off. It's probably not going to come off that easy. This set screw is probably going to be bound up. Not the set screw itself, but the shaft is probably going to be bound up once I remove the set screw. We'll see. That noise that you guys can hear, that is an ultrasonic cleaner. I apologize for that. I'm doing a test on one. And I need to get it done. And I also need to get this done. So they're happening at the same time. Alright, grub screw is out. Set screw, whatever you want to call it. I've taken it completely out. Yeah, I was right. It's not going to come real easy. Alright, well, I can see the back of the shaft here, so what I'm going to try to do is spray a little bit of WD-40 in there. There is 0% chance that the camera will be able to see what I'm talking about. So I'm spraying a little bit of WD-40 in there in hopes that it runs in and freeze it up. Now I'm going to try to rotate it and spray some in on the other side. And in the grub screw hole. It looks like this is not going to come off voluntarily, so I'm going to leave that WD-40 sit on there for a while, and then we'll come back and see if it's going to come off. That actually worked. I mean, it's not all the way out, but it came part way out. Down inside of there, this is one of the yokes for the universal joint. And this is the nut that I put in there. And it is pushing against the shaft that I'm trying to push out. So what I did is, try to get this out without knocking the nut out. What I did was put the pry bar in like this and wedged it against the nut, and then by smashing on the pry bar it pushed out on the shaft. The shaft was all the way flush out to the end of this yoke, and now you can see it is not. So now the question is, how do I get it the rest of the way out? Now that it has moved, I'm going to spray a little bit more WD-40 in there. And then maybe I can hit on here with the lead hammer and it'll come out. Maybe not. One thing I can tell you for sure is it's doing an awful number on my lead hammer. It doesn't seem to be moving. I've got a little bit bigger nut in there, so I'm going to give this another go, see if I can push it a little further. Working. Okay, looks like I need a longer nut again. This is what I used this time. If that falls and crushes my finger, whew. Okay, now I kind of need to remove the hammer. There we go. Alright, this might work if I don't screw up. It's thing is gonna fight me all the way. I tell you what, I do not envy people who have to work on these every day. So I've driven it in that far now. That's about 1.125 inches, 1.25 inches. And the whole thing is only, let's see, oh yeah, we're almost there. I'm going to try one more time to just bang on this and see if it'll come out. Oh. Yeah, what a miserable thing to work on that is. Anyway, this is the nut right here that is the problem. It doesn't have any threads in it. And it needs to have threads in it. So, what I think I'm going to do, what makes the most sense, is I will take a grinder, I will cut the welds off of this nut, and weld a new nut on. I've decided to use my TIG welder for this task simply because it doesn't make a lot of spatter and mess. It'll be pretty easy for me to get in there with the TIG and weld a nut on without spatter going everywhere. It's nice and quiet, and yeah, it's just gonna work well, so that's what I'm gonna do. Totally not necessary. I've put a whole bunch of washers on the bolt so that it doesn't stick through. I don't want it going all the way through the nut because this way I don't have any chance of the bolt actually getting stuck in the nut. All right, I'm gonna weld here and here. So I'm actually gonna rotate it a bit to make welding easier so that I have better access to it. I'm gonna put a weld here and one here. Before I actually try welding it out, I'm actually going to heat it up a little bit and see what happens. It might, there might be a lot of soot and sparks and buildup at first, just while it burns away the coating and any debris that's there. I have cleaned it off, but yeah, it has some sort of coating on it, not zinc. Okay, let's go. Okay, I think I'm actually going to try welding it out this time. You guys probably aren't going to be able to see anything because I've got to get right in the way here to actually weld. Before the smoke settles, I'll weld up this side, and yeah, all will be well. All right, that worked. Okay, now I'm going to try to turn that bolt out. Before I do that, I'm actually going to spray some WD-40 on it because I'm not taking any chances. It should not get stuck in there because it's not even all the way through. But sometimes I don't have the greatest luck. So I'm going to spray some on there. I'm going to get rid of my tools here, put the welding stuff away, and then I'll try to take it out. Okay, the moment of truth. Are we going to be able to... Oh yeah, I can take it out with my fingers. I wish I had a little bit smaller paintbrush than this, but it'll have to do. There are two reasons why this came apart with such difficulty. The keyway is actually flared up on one side from basically pressure against the key. You can actually see a shiny line along the edge of the keyway where it is bulged up from the key pressing against it. You can see a little mark here where it's flared up. You can quite clearly see the pressure mark there. And also over here where the grub screw goes in, they didn't machine or grind a flat spot in this area, and so when the grub screw pushes on there, it swells that area up, and then when you try to pull it out, that gets stuck inside of the coupler or the universal joint. So what I'm going to do is grind this down and then grind this off and then hit it with flap disc just to clean it up. Alright, it doesn't take much, that's all it takes. Now change out to the flap disc. I have some Never Sees and I'm going to apply it liberally to a bunch of this stuff so that when it has to come apart again, it comes apart a whole lot easier than it did for me. I'm going to get a bunch of this on the inside of this nut. Make sure that we get it liberally coated with Never Sees so that it never seizes. Put some on the other bolt as well. I'm going to put a little bit of Never Sees in the grub screw hole. And we're going to put a little inside of the keyway. And then put the key in. That will hold it in place as we put this all together. And then I'm going to liberally coat the outside of this shaft so that it doesn't seize in there. I can't believe they put this together dry. That kind of blows my mind. Okay, let's try to slide this together and see how it goes. Hopefully it goes together a lot easier than it came apart. I don't know that you guys are going to be able to see anything here because as soon as I start sliding this together, it all gets covered up. Almost home. Okay, that will work. Alright, I've got some anti-seize or Never Sees on the threads of the bolt here. I'm going to get that in the hole. This is not the one that I repaired. This is the lower bolt. And now for the one we repaired. I thought I was going to have to give it a wiggle, but I didn't even have to wiggle it. It lined right up. The last thing I need to do is put this grub screw back in It goes in there. It's kind of tricky to get a camera shot of, but I'm doing my best here. Let's see if we can rotate this around. There we go. That is snugged up. It's not going to go anywhere. Now the last thing we need to do is wipe this thing down because it got pretty dirty. Alright, acetone definitely doing the job. I feel like to the camera it probably looks like I'm not achieving anything. One more little wipe across the end here. And we're done. Some rust marks here that were there long before I dealt with it. We'll wipe them too. You made it all the way to the end of the video, which either means you are an absolute trooper, you found this video entertaining, or you found it informative. Hopefully the audio didn't drive you completely insane and you're watching it only because you're an insane person now. I probably won't be seeing any more of these come across my bench in the near future. I've worked on one of these BCS machines before, probably about 6 years ago. But yeah, I rarely see one of these, and this was kind of an, like I said at the first, an oddball repair. I'm not 100% sure what I have planned for Lowered Expectations in the next few days or weeks. I do know that I will be working on some ultrasonic cleaner tests, some of them amusing and some of them experimental / informative, but all of them in Lowered Expectations style. I am going to be doing a bunch of work over on my Joel Arsenault YouTube channel where I'll be working on jet ski stuff. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to leave a thumbs up. If you want to see more nonsense, be sure to subscribe. And once again, thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. I do appreciate it. I'll see you next time.